Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Well, last episode, we returned to Sholmes' attic for our joyful reunion with Susato, as we asked her why she had returned and learned at last how she knew of Iris's manuscript's title, deepening the mystery surrounding the Hound of the Baskervilles story. With a new investigation phase beginning and with our trusty partner returned to our side, we first headed to speak to Mel Strongheart, spotting the head coroner, Courtney Sithe, leaving before we asked a few questions, gaining access to investigate the sham kinesis machine as we now head to the forensics laboratory. I can't wait to see it. Can you? Well, that's macabre. Very macabre. I believe this is it, Dr. Sithe's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose, and there's plenty to assault the eyes in here too. Lots of formaldehyde, yeah? Looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a seasoned tourist you become, Miss Susato. There's literally blood on the table. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Past the bone saw, there's no music here at all. Can't even examine it. I can examine the blood. No, I can't. I can examine the medicine. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones here are labeled highly toxic. Ugh, that's worrying, because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. That was up here, basically. Table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air? You'd either have to have a cast iron constitution or a really terrible sense of smell. Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. I suppose they're fruit liquors or something? Fruit liquors. Or like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home. Oh, yes. Yes. Have a sip. Ah, Father had jars like that in his laboratory as well. I expect they're human organs in a preserving solution. Probably as examples of some rare medical condition. Miss Susato, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever. Oh! So as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi. Aren't they? Oh, of course! Ah, yes, I like my spine-shaped plums. That's for certain. I suppose this is Dr. Sithe's desk. Ugh, I would not like to work in a place like this. It's very tidy though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work. The lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can't be good for you. Not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Well, yes, those are valid concerns, I suppose. I could just about cope with a one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's all. Oh, look at this! What a magnificent display case! Cherrywood has been polished to a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they? Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton inside, Mr. Naruhodo? Miss Susato, can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of the case? It's how I cope! I'll be sure to remember that from now on. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like that your Daruma doll on display in the office instead. Yes. Which is sleeping with its eye open, I take it. Only that. Oh, looks like we're done here. So there wasn't anything to check out here at this juncture, at this point in time. We jumped the gun a little bit because we were too excited to check out a new place in a new area. What a beautiful sight we have now seen. Something else to check out. Oh, no, there's a book. Look at this big, thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. 500? They must be working really hard on dissecting corpses. I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances, and scalpel blades can be sharpened too. It does seem a bit strange, you're right. 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all of them for? What are you doing? Ah! Sorry, we had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so... So you thought you'd snoop around? That's acceptable to you people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want? Lord Strongheart told us, you see? That it was you who examined the victim's body. Mr. Asman's body, I mean. So we came to ask you about your findings, on Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what our investigation revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately. Okay, then. What are your findings? So, you want to know what the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene? The victim, Mr. Odi Asman, who disappeared from the experimentation stage amid an explosion, and the Mr. Asman who appeared moments later partway up the Crystal Tower, were without question one and the same person. That is the team's conclusion. But that can't be right. If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see. If two people who look very similar to each other were involved, they could have made it appear as if one single person had switched places, couldn't they? Very true, but sadly in this instance, that was not the case. The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. The fingerprints of the scene make that quite evident. Ah, fingerprints. They're not yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British justice system. But one day, they will be used as an investigative aid as a matter of course. Oh my! But that would mean that the instantaneous kinesis actually took place. So where does that leave us? My team was tasked with investigating, not drawing conclusions. Instantaneous kinesis is impossible, and yet the body did move from one place to the other. This hasn't cleared anything up at all. It's made the whole thing even more of a mystery. Mama, what is this? Ah! Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? This is a lawyer, dear. Oh. Hello. To meet you. Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer. Ryunosuke Naru. Mama? Yes? Can I cut this one up? What? I've never seen inside an East in person before. I want to know what it looks like. Of course you can't. It's a live specimen, as you can very well see. Boring. I think I just had a near-death experience. Oh dear, Mr. Naruhodo, you're as pale as a corpse. Then let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. I guess I don't want to investigate further then. So, what are you doing at the moment, Doctor? Keeping a close eye on things so no impertinent Easterners think they can look around my office. Are there such impertinent Easterners around? How terrible. Yes, you. She doesn't mince her words, Miss Susato. I think perhaps it's time we left. Maybe it indeed is. What a weird day we've been having already. Well, let's go to the prison then and continue down the line, so to say, that we did get the allowance to visit the experimentation stage. I see they gave you some chalk. What's he doing? Oh my, the whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Miss Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Susato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in court this morning. Oh no. The whole thing, the whole miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Hairbrain? What have you been working on in your cell? Oh, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? Ah, no, actually, this is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How I Was Diddled and Fiddled by Albert Hairbrain. I found I could represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the kinesis machine, you see. So it's going to be a new serial publication from next month. Part 1, an odd birth and odd upbringing. You can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. By Asman and by that aloof engineer Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Maybe, if I examine them. Everything I believe in has been turned on its head. My research, Mr. Asman, the kinesis machine. My hypothesis, even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end, there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in court this morning, I realized something. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know. Baroque did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Baroque wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Okay, what was his motivation? After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was with anyone other than Baroque, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Barrow insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? I'm sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. Mr. Asman. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so infused. He was so emphatic. But in reality, he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. As the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic, it probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. The scale of it wasn't just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool. It's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. And that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Asman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Mr. Enoch Drebber. Is he an engineer, or a magician, or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Asman first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist. Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues you can give us as to his whereabouts? I'm sorry, we only ever discussed the kinesis machine. Nothing else. Although, just once, I did visit his workshop. What workshop? Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine. Why didn't you mention this before? Enoch Drebber's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there. So you've been to Drebber's place of work then? Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place. Plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see. Where can we find it? We have to get there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Drebber there. Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure. As in, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry. I was more than half expecting that. You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there. He blindfolded you? He wasn't taking any chances then. The place was incredible. The pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best. A special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the world should forget their secret formula and use that instead. What do you think, Miss Susato? Odor machine for your next birthday? I've never used any kind of perfume, Mrs. Naruhodo, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card for Mr. Drebber, for example. The man was clearly very cautious, Miss Susato. I'm sure he would never... Aha! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. It's right here. Look. What? Let me see that. Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you? Enoch Drebber, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. No. Oh, well, I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Drebber's card has been entered into the court record. And that's it for here? No more talkie? Drebber's card has been added. Does it have an address on it? He has a something on it. Interesting, the marks up in the corners, to be fair. Wait a second. Have I got to put an electric charge through this thing? This dark smudge here. I think perhaps it's machine oil. Ah, yes, possibly. Professor Hairbrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Drebber uses, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high-quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Yes, that's right. But more importantly, that it's more fragrant than the finest perfume. So, excuse me a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all. Don't worry. I expect it's just because there's such a tiny amount on here. The details of Drebber's card have been updated. There's a smear of machine oil on the reverse. I'm still interested in the plus and minus signs. I guess before we leave then, if that's all we're doing with you, sir... Oh, I'm gone to thingy again. I wanted to examine, and I'm not even allowed to. Ah. I guess we just move on then, I guess. To our next location. The experimentation stage, which we fortunately do have permission to have a look at. We're at the foot of the Crystal Tower. I had no idea there were so many people in the world. I know what you mean. It's really packed here today. It feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point. Has it? I shut my brain down, so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of mind sometimes, Mr. Naruhodo. There you are. I had a feeling you lot would show your mugs before long. Oh, it's you, not Gina. Oh, Inspector Gregson. I see you're hard at work as usual. Warm greetings to you. I do hope you've been keeping well since last we met. What's with all the ceremony? We just saw each other in court this morning. Not you, Sunshine. The gentlewoman's so loyally at your side. Oh. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but he's still proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you probably guessed, we were hoping to investigate the scene some more. Right, well, that's the young trainee's domain. Oi, get over it, Gina. She seems to be busy playing with a puppy. Probably giving it a traditional East End training. Gina? She's a police officer now? Amazing, isn't it? She's a good kid, actually. Heart's in the right place, anyway. She's got a detection bug, if you ask me. Yep, I think she'll follow in my footsteps nicely. What do you mean? I'm being transferred. It's time for me to say toodaloo to London. Oh no, really? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? I had no idea. Where are you going to be posted then? We'll come to see how you're getting along. Ah, not likely. But you're welcome to try. If you don't mind a trip to France, that is. To France? I'll be working in the Paris Police Prefecture. Should be right up my alley. But France is an entirely different country. I don't understand. Why would you be sent there? That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. Don't go poking your nose in where it's not wanted. That's not really how the adult world works. Why do they... How can Britain send a police officer to France? What? I'm intending to take the kid with me when I go. What? You're taking Gina to Paris? Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what'll become of her? I suppose he's worried she slipped back into slipping her hands into people's pockets and purses. I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruhodo. I think he's worried about the Reaper. Oh, of course. So that's playing on Inspector Gregson's mind too, is it? He's got attached. Anyway, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina, so don't go blabbing, you hear me? No, of course not. I've got to keep that Diving Diva safe and sound. Until all this is over, at least. Oi, did you just call me a bloomin' Diving Diva again? So you heard that, did ya? Right, well, any questions about the scene, you can put them to my capable Detective Diva here. Alright, you heard the boss. Inspector Lestrade's in charge here now. I suppose I'd better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. So, Gina, you've got a new dog, have you? Isn't he great? Toby's his name. Oh, how delightful. He's absolutely adorable. Yes, the dog does seem lovely. But it's the not-so-lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing on my mind, to be honest. Well, I guess it's time to ask Gina a little bit. Why did investigating the scene turn into investigating the scene? Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm going to be playing with my new friend here. Ah, yes, Toby. The machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind... Sorry, you can't go up there, Sus. Oh. It's like I told Odo yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Is that what you were thinking of? Oh, we've got it now, have we? That's the one. That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The Forensic Summon? The Forensic Investigation Team. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah! But isn't it the case that the special dispensation has been lifted? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with you. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange Summon? I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps. That's the one, yeah! Apparently, he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. You what? You've met him? Last time the boss was cool to go and see him. He waited for 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling. Tragic. Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene, as long as we touch nothing. Oh, yeah? Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. So, you're still saying all this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine. That really would be tragic. Alright then. Them's the stairs. Off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. I should reply by saying, yeah, oh, he needs to be able to eat pommes frites, yeah? So today's trial. It was great, weren't it? I had a right laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in all your previous court appearances, didn't you? Yeah, and Odo's made things hard for me every single time and all. Just doing my job, Gina. But watching someone else get in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy professor's dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruhodo's client. Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though. It's the boss I feel sorry for. Sent off to do the impossible. What do you mean? He's supposed to arrest that other cove, ain't he? And in time for tomorrow and all. You know, the dodgy engineer. What's his name again? Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber. That's the one, yeah! So the police are looking for this mysterious man with the black monocle. I guess they would be. It's putting too much on the boss, if you ask me. He says it's giving him gut ache. Oh dear, but I do wonder if that isn't actually from all the fried food. It may be. So, Gregson is in a big search, or has to, not only guard this place, but also find the engineer's whereabouts. We have a card and nothing else. Gina has a new dog. So we will continue to talk and investigate this scene the next time on The Great Ace Attorney 2, as we covered a fair bit of ground today. Hopefully you'll join me then for more. And I'll see you guys for it next time. Bye-bye.